Hey there. Ever get that like intense sugar craving? And wonder if it's more than just a simple desire for something sweet. Today, we're diving deep into the question. Could sugar actually be addictive?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? We're not just talking about a fleeting sugar rush. We're going to explore the impact sugar has on your brain on a chemical level.
Okay, I like that. Let's break it down. You shared a Healthline article with me. It has a pretty bold title. Experts agree sugar might be as addictive as cocaine. And to get a different perspective, we've also got an interview with Jessie Inchauspé. You know the glucose goddess from the YouTube channel, The Diary of a CEO?
Yeah, both of those sources offer unique perspectives. The Healthline article delves into the scientific research, while Jesse and Chospe provides really practical advice based on that science helping you manage your sugar intake.
Yeah, I love how she's so practical about it. But okay, to kick things off, I think we need a solid understanding of what addiction actually means. Could you give us a concise definition, especially focusing on the brain chemistry involved?
Yeah, sure. So think of addiction as your brain's reward system getting a bit hijacked. When you do something pleasurable, your brain releases dopamine. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that makes you feel good. The more you repeat that behavior, the more you crave that dopamine hit.
Okay, so it's like how some people get hooked on video games
Yeah.
or like can't stop binge watching their favorite shows.
Exactly. The same reward pathways in the brain are activated, whether it's a game, a show, or sugar.
Interesting. And the Healthline article suggests that sugar really taps into that dopamine reward system, but also releases opioids in our bodies.
That's right. And that combination of dopamine and opioids creates a powerful reinforcement, making you crave more and more sugar. It can be a tough cycle to break.
Now, I can't ignore the attention-grabbing headline in the Healthline article. Experts agree sugar might be as addictive as cocaine. It's a pretty strong statement. Is
Yeah.
there actual research to back that up?
There is. Studies on rats show that they actually found Oreo cookies more addictive than cocaine. It wasn't just about preference either. They went straight for the creamy filling first, mirroring a behavior we see in humans.
Huh. So those creamy centers are irresistible even for rodents.
And a French study went a step further, suggesting that the reward your brain experiences after eating sugar could be even stronger and more desirable than the effects of cocaine.
That's pretty mind-blowing. So while the Oreos versus cocaine headlines might be designed to grab attention, the research suggests sugar can have a serious impact on our brains.
And that raises an important question. If sugar has this strong pull on us, how do we manage in a world where it seems like added sugar is in everything?
That's a great point. The Healthline article points out how pervasive added sugar is. It's not just in the obvious things like candy and desserts. It's hiding in bread salad dressings, even granola bars, foods we often think of as healthy.
It's a sneaky ingredient for sure. The World Health Organization has actually been urging us to significantly reduce our free sugars intake for better health. They recommend less than 10% of our daily calories from added sugar. And ideally, even lower, around 5%. That's about 6 teaspoons.
To put that in perspective, the article says the average person in the U.S. consumes about 14% of their daily calories from added sugars. That's more than double the ideal amount.
It is. But there is some good news. The FDA's new food labels now list added sugars separately, making it much easier for you to make informed choices. Knowledge is power. Being aware of what's actually in your food is the first step towards making healthier choices.
So it's not about eliminating sugar entirely, right? After all, unlike those drugs we talked about, sugar is essential for survival. Our bodies need glucose to function.
Absolutely. The key is understanding how to manage your sugar intake and how it affects you personally. And that's where the interview with Jessie and Chospe, the glucose goddess, comes in.
Yes, she really breaks down a wide range of symptoms that can pop up from those sugar spikes.
And it's not just about weight gain. We're talking about cravings, fatigue, brain fog, difficulty, sleeping, even skin issues. It can even impact menopause and fertility. It's like your body's way of saying, hey, this is too much sugar.
Wow. It really does sound like our bodies are trying to tell us something. So what's actually going on inside our bodies to cause these symptoms?
Jessie and Chospe explains that it's all about maintaining a balance of glucose in your bloodstream. When you consume too much sugar too quickly, it floods your system and overwhelms your mitochondria.
Mitochondria, can you remind me what those are again?
They're the tiny powerhouses within your cells. They're responsible for converting the food you eat into usable energy.
Got it. So too much sugar at once is like overloading those energy producers.
Precisely. This overload leads to a chain reaction of negative effects, including a process called glycation. Basically, sugar molecules bind to proteins in your body, and that speeds up the aging process.
Accelerated aging. That definitely makes me want to put down this cookie.
And we can't forget about insulin, the hormone responsible for regulating blood sugar. When your blood sugar spikes, your body releases insulin to store that excess glucose, which can lead to fat storage.
And the more those sugar spikes happen, the more our bodies become resistant to insulin, which can lead to more serious health problems down the line.
It can be a slippery slope, but thankfully Jessie Inchauspé doesn't just leave us with doom and gloom. She offers practical hacks to help us manage our sugar intake.
That's what I love about her approach. She gives us actionable steps that we can start using right away. And knowing you, I've picked out 3 of her hacks from the interview that I think you'll find particularly interesting.
I'm all ears. What's the first one?
All right, so the first hack is called Veggies First.
This one's all about strategy. By starting your meals with fiber-rich vegetables, you're essentially creating a protective mesh in your gut.
So it's like building a barrier to slow down how quickly sugar gets absorbed.
Exactly. That protective mesh helps prevent those dramatic blood sugar spikes. It's a simple change, with some pretty impressive research backing it up.
I love that. Simple, strategic, and effective. Okay, what's the next hack?
This one might surprise you. It's vinegar before meals.
Vinegar. Before eating. I'm intrigued, but I've got to admit it sounds a little strange.
I know, right? But studies have shown that a tablespoon of vinegar diluted in water before meals can really make a difference in reducing those blood sugar surges.
So how does that work? Does vinegar somehow block sugar from entering the bloodstream?
It's not quite about blocking sugar, but more about slowing down the process. Vinegar contains acetic acid, which helps to slow down the breakdown of starches into sugar. It also seems to encourage your muscles to use more glucose, further reducing the impact on your blood sugar levels.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this works. It's like putting the brakes on the sugar train, giving your body more time to process it. Vinegar is definitely going on my grocery list.
Yeah.
What's the third hack you picked out?
The third one is movement after meals. This one taps into your body's natural ability to use glucose for energy.
So if you move around after eating, your muscles use up some of that glucose, preventing a big spike.
Exactly. And it doesn't require a strenuous workout. A short walk, some calf raises while you're doing the dishes, even just cleaning up after your meal can make a difference.
That's great. It's all about finding those little ways to incorporate more movement into your routine. Speaking of routines, before we started recording, I was almost tempted to devour that breakfast wrap I ordered.
Ah, the breakfast wrap dilemma. We've all been there.
I was worried about getting that energy crash mid-conversation, but you actually said the wrap was a good choice. I thought breakfast was supposed to be all about fueling up with energy, even if it means having sugary cereal or pancakes.
That's a common misconception. A sugary breakfast actually sets you up for a blood sugar roller coaster throughout the day. Remember all those symptoms we talked about? The energy crashes, the cravings, the brain fog. A sugary breakfast can be a major contributor to that.
So you're saying that starting the day with a sugar rush isn't actually the best way to get energized?
Right. It's like starting your day on a shaky foundation. Instead, Jessie Inchauspé recommends having a savory breakfast.
Savory breakfast. That's a new one for me. What are some good options?
Think eggs, avocados, smoked salmon nut seeds. Even leftovers from dinner. Anything that focuses on protein, healthy fats, and fiber.
I actually love that idea. It sounds much more satisfying and less likely to cause a mid-morning slump. And it makes sense when you consider the impact on blood sugar.
Exactly. A savory breakfast helps keep your glucose levels stable, providing sustained energy and preventing those drastic spikes and crashes.
You know, this is making me rethink my whole approach to breakfast.
It's a simple shifting perspective that can make a big difference in how you feel throughout the day.
Absolutely. And while we're on the topic of breakfast, we can't forget about that myth we debunked earlier, the idea that fruit juice is a healthy way to start the day.
Yes, the fruit juice fallacy.
It's so easy to think that anything fruit-related must be good for you. But as we learned, fruit juice is basically stripped of its fiber, leaving behind a concentrated dose of sugar.
It's a far cry from eating a piece of whole fruit, where the fiber helps to slow down sugar absorption.
So a piece of fruit for breakfast is great, but fruit juice, not so much. It's basically like drinking liquid candy.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the science behind sugar and some practical ways to manage our intake. But what about the bigger picture? What about the role of personal responsibility versus societal influence?
That's a crucial conversation. It's easy to get caught up in the individual choices we make, but we can't ignore the larger context that shapes those choices.
It's that age-old debate. Is it our fault for giving in to those sugar cravings? Or is the system working against us?
It's a complex issue and there's no easy answer. On one hand, we have the power to make choices about what we eat. We can read labels, cook at home, and opt for whole foods over processed snacks.
But on the other hand, we live in a world saturated with sugary foods that are cheap, easily accessible, and heavily marketed. It can feel like an uphill battle.
It is, especially when you consider how those foods are designed to trigger our brain's reward system. It's like we're fighting against not only our own biology, but also a food environment that often prioritizes profit over health. And then there are the cultural norms and social pressures around food that make it even harder to resist.
Absolutely. Think about holidays, birthdays, even just grabbing coffee with friends. Sugar is often at the center of those social interactions.
It's woven into the fabric of our lives. So how do we navigate this complex situation where personal choice intersects with these larger societal forces?
I think it starts with awareness. Awareness of the science, the marketing tactics, and the cultural norms that shape our relationship with sugar.
Yeah, it's about understanding how those factors influence our choices without getting caught up in blame or guilt.
Exactly. Once we understand the forces at play, we can start making more conscious choices.
And it's not just about individual action, right? It's also about advocating for a food environment that supports healthy choices.
Absolutely. We can demand clearer food labeling, push for regulations on marketing sugary foods to children, and support policies that make healthy foods more accessible and affordable.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a collective effort, requiring us to use our voices and our choices to create a food system that truly prioritizes health.
It's not an easy task, but it's definitely a necessary one.
And if we can shift the balance, even in small ways, we can create a ripple effect. That benefits not only ourselves, but future generations as well. It's about creating a world where healthy choices are the easy choices. A world where we're not constantly battling against that tide of temptation.
It's about building a world where sugar is enjoyed as a treat, not a staple.
Oh, that's a vision worth striving for. As we wrap up this deep dive, I'm curious, what are your final thoughts for our listener? What's that one thing you want them to walk away with?
I think the biggest takeaway is this. It's not about being perfect. It's about progress. It's about understanding the science, empowering yourself with knowledge, and making small, sustainable changes that support your health and well-being.
I love that. And as always, there's so much more to explore. We've only just scratched the surface of this topic. But hopefully this deep dive has given you some valuable insights and practical strategies to help you manage your relationship with sugar.
And for those who want to dive even deeper, I highly recommend checking out Jesse Inchauspé's books, Glucose Revolution for the in-depth science, and Glucose Goddess Method for a practical 4-week guide.
Awesome. So what does this all mean for you? Think about your own relationship with sugar. What small changes can you make to feel more energized and in control of your cravings?
Remember, knowledge is power, and even small shifts in awareness and behavior can have a big impact on your health and well-being.
That's so true. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of sugar and addiction. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay empowered.